Just to set the objective of this quick overview, I will show you how to plan in a integrated way in order to reach a consensus on your demand plan. So something that Natra is currently going through and I was able to do with Anaplan. And what I mean by a consensus plan is that typically an organization, has multiple functional areas, and they need to bring in all of that information to generate a consensus on what the demand is going to be in the future, right? That might involve the actual demand planning department, the sales department, marketing, supply, you name it, right? So all of these pieces of information, if they can be gathered into one place, it gives you a greater insight of what the future might be. And now the current challenges that we typically see is a siloed or disconnected spreadsheets that are being used to try to achieve this plan that are rarely in sync and might be hard to plan in. And they also typically, these solutions might have issues with scalability and just basically be insecure towards having actually reconciling to the actuals, because different people might be pulling their data from different sources, and etc. So, right, so let's dive into Anaplan, and we'll quickly go through a few basic steps, just a process high level of product lifecycle management. So this is something that we also implemented in Natra, so we can make sure that we plan everything that we need to plan, and we don't plan old products, and we do include new products. We'll take a look at the statistical baseline and how to generate just your baseline of the consensus plan. Then some cross-functional features in order to adjust your forecast based on the needs for from sales or information from marketing. And then just also a look at the output of the consensus plan. Now, when it comes to knowing what you forecast, depending on the granularity you might go to, we typically see that we do forecast on a SKU level, right? So we try to get it down to the lowest level. But this comes with certain issues and headaches in the planning, because those SKUs, they might be moving around, right? So you might be getting new SKUs in your portfolio and getting some older SKUs out. So it's always a question on how to manage that. So, and what Anaplan enables to do is we can create a new SKU, and what that allows me to do is make sure that I have everything that I need in order to do planning. But with these new products come new questions as well, right? So how do you set a demand for a completely new product? So what you might have is a similar product that you can copy the baseline from in order to at least have a certain forecast for your new product. But we all know that it's not like you only include new products and you double your sales. What might happen is you might want to input some cannibalization percentage, right? So to make sure that old product is not still keeping at the same level of sales, because if you release a new one, it might completely eradicate it. And in order to plan for that, we can also plan succession. So if the product is overseeding the new product is overseeding the previous one, you can sort of completely get it out of your sales. So this would be the first process in your cycle that you want to do, is basically making sure that the portfolio that you have in terms of the granularity, let it be SKUs or stores, depending on what changes frequently, you can make sure that everything's within the plans. And then what we can also do is, depending on not only new, but we can also go into end of life setup, because as you introduce SKUs, older SKUs can also be decommissioned, and all of those high level overviews can be achieved through the product lifecycle management. Now, when that is done, what we typically see is we want to set out a certain baseline of our forecast. So not to do it manually or go through every single SKU manually. What Anaplan does and allows you to do is, based upon your historic data, we can forecast the future sales given a certain method for statistical forecasting. So depending on the pattern of the skew, the amount of history you have, the method that's best fit for forecasting the skew might be different. So that's why we're running multiple methods in parallel in order to see, like typically based on the mean average percentage error, to see which method is performing best on a holdout data set of the historic data, right? So we typically try to hide a certain bit of future from the data, and then see which forecast performs best on this out of sample data in order to generate the best forecast for a specific product that we have in the portfolio. So an Anaplan does this automatically, right? So the only thing that we need to do is put in the historic data and let the system run and do its job in order to give us a baseline. Of course, if we see something odd or if we want to do any adjustments, we always have the possibility to deep dive into our forecast settings and try to look at other methods. Maybe they have a better let's say consensus towards what we are aiming for. But generally, this helps us to do a bulk of the work in order to get to our baseline. Then not only to that, but maybe also coming back to the challenges that Danielle was talking about is also making sure that you have clean history, right? Because not always you capture all of the sales initiatives. Maybe you have sales data for 2 to 3 years, but then all of the initiatives that you have captured don't really go back that far. So what we try to do as well is we always try to look at the historic data and see if there's any outliers that either we want to add in like as a new initiatives that have happened in the past, so we capture them, or just try to also clean them out to adjust it automatically towards a certain set of limits that we want to be within, let's say lower and upper bounds. Now, when we have developed our statistical baseline, then our cross-functional forecasts start to kick in, right? So essentially then we can see at a group level, let's say, is the amount that we're forecasting hitting our revenue targets? And do we need to try to adjust it on some region level, right? So then we essentially can start cascading initiatives down, either from a general finance team to see, okay, where we have our gaps and what we might need to plug or hold or override to try to reach our targets. We can also start collaborating with the sales team. I mean, it could be even down to the sales rep level, where they sort of have a certain portfolio of customers that they try to oversee and make sure that the initiatives are put in. Or as Daniel as well mentioned, is establishing a risk and opportunities adjustment to your forecast in order to put in like what could happen in the future that the sales reps know that historic data can't tell us. Because especially with the situation that we're in right now, where we see all sorts of different disruptions to our demand, historic data is not enough. We need additional data sources and additional insights in order to make sure that we can establish a good baseline for our planning. And then besides these as well, we can manage marketing precisions and some initiatives, right? So that might explain some of the historic peaks in sales that we might have, but also explain when they might happen again, depending on promotions and what might be the uplifts of a certain promotion that we have during the time scale. And then once we have run through our general basis and added our top layer adjustments, right, and it can cascade down, it can be bottom up, top down. It really sort of depends on the company structure and the demand planning per se. But then after all, we just want to put it together and see our let's say our original baseline, and then all of our adjustments and what is our consensus plan, and that gets spit out of this, right? So we essentially gather all of the information together, and then we can have initiate a certain workflow within the team to make sure that a certain process has been done, and then we agree on what is the plan, right? So this would be typically like within your SNOP meeting during the month. You get all of the stakeholders together in one call, and then you make and adjust the plan to make sure that everybody's working out of the same assumptions and everybody has the same plan for production or shipments of products, any other features or processes in the company. And besides that, besides planning as well, we also allow for just simple reporting. So getting sure that you overview the forecast accuracy, what has happened in the past, to see if there's any issues with the logic or some of the pieces of our drivers of the forecast, just to come back and try to improve every single sales cycle or every single SNOP cycle, sorry, in order to drive the accuracy further up in your organization. And just to recap on the different initiatives that Anaplan can help you on is just the ability to align plans better within your organization, bringing those teams together and breaking down those silos. Improved accuracy, right? That can lead to saved on lower inventory costs or just improved production schedule. So demand planning can help in all of the aspects of the business in order to drive this. And then Anaplan models typically also enable quick adjustments to the demand and just the overall process. And they're also fairly vastly scalable when you compare to some other tools. And one of the last things as well that Sergio mentioned in the beginning, Anaplan is not like a point solution. It's a platform, and maybe if you're starting with demand planning, it might be that also your sales and marketing could have a different tool and a different model for them, right? So you essentially start to get more of the business in one ecosystem, so it gets even easier to align those plans, right? So they don't just have to input their high-level assumptions, but they also have a model where they look at the low-level initiatives and then maybe just import the process as a result of their monthly cycle meetings.